Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, your very last post-game show of the 2024 Missouri Fighting Football Tigers season. Mizzou won 27-24. They beat Iowa. Those dirty hats of the state of Missouri, they could not beat our beloved Tigers. They fall late to Brady Cook's last game, to Eli Drinkwitz's consecutive 10-win season. And that's it. Sayonara 2024. Nathan Hurst, how you doing?
I am feeling trans perfect today. Not only perfect, but trans perfect. Don't ask me what that means, but that's how I feel.
Very woke of you. Very woke. But yeah, we are here reveling in the victory. Let me say this, because I was thinking about this game in particular and like just this season overall. And I was about to come in here and say, you know what? This is just the most perfect game to encapsulate this season. But then I was like, no, every Missouri victory is like the perfect game to encapsulate Mizzou's season. Because every time they went up against a P4 team, they'd do some crummy opening drive that goes 3 plays or 4 plays. They'd spin their wheels in the first quarter, then maybe punch around, figure something out in the second quarter, and then make a 2-score comeback in the fourth and win it late. Like, that's just how they played. And that's how they played in this game. So yes, this is a perfect game to encapsulate the season, but this is just who Mizzou is in 2024. And I'm glad they did it, and I'm glad they won with it because that makes me happy. What were your thoughts on this? Your immediate takeaways?
I mean, it's the exact same thoughts. They did this. They didn't do this 10 times, but of the legitimate competition that they played, they did it at least 7 of their 10 wins this year. So going back to Boston College, fell down 14-3, kind of messed around, finally got together. Arkansas was the same case. Oklahoma was the same case.
Yep.
Auburn was the same. So yeah, this is the perfect way to end a very weird season that ultimately was a good season. 10-3 is, you're never going to say a 10-win season at Mizzou is anything less than a good season. So this is the great way to finish it. Great way to send off Brady Cook with one of probably his best game of the season, I would have to say, which is really nice to send him off that way. Other seniors, Johnny Walker Jr. had at least a great second half. Sent him off. Theo Weiss had a great first half before he unfortunately went out with an injury. This was great in many different ways. Got Blake Craig back. We got our long kick and field goal kicker is rolling into his sophomore year with some confidence. So this is a great encapsulation of not just this year, but I think the last couple of years in terms of Mizzou football. Weird games, not perfect game. They are not perfect games, but they are ones that more often than not finish with the Tigers on top.
Yeah, you do enough to win. They do enough to win, and not more and not less. Well, I guess less than the losses. But as far as wins, they're never pouring it on. They're never running away with it, unless you are Mississippi State or Buffalo. It's just, this is kind of how this team is, and it's not flashy. And I think when you go back into the preseason or like the off season as we were ramping up to this 2024 campaign, and we all had playoff in our mind, right? We're going to make a run for the SEC. We're going to be making it into the expanded playoff, and they didn't do that. And I think any negativity that's wrapped around this season in particular is, in my eyes, almost 100% tied to the fact that they didn't make the playoff when we thought that they could. And when you remove that aspect and just say, okay, what if we approached it with, we didn't have those expectations, just blank slate, whatever you want to do, like, then there's nothing wrong. I mean, again, aesthetically, it's not a pleasing product, but the 10 wins are there. No, the schedule is not the hardest schedule of all time, but it's better than what we thought it was going to be. And I don't know, they were right there for 11 wins. They beat the teams that they were supposed to beat. If I go back, I almost guarantee that they're going to beat every single team that they were better than an SP plus, and probably lost to every single team that they were worse than an SP plus. And, they did enough to keep it tight, keep it close. And, the road woes still exist. They still win at home. They're dynamite in 1-score games, except for that one time. Like, this is a continuation of the 2023 season without the explosive plays and the big victories, but like you're still there. And so this is a great 2-year stretch. I don't see anything wrong with it other than you didn't make the playoff. And like, let's just take that out of the equation for this year because they didn't.
If you had prior to the 2023 season come to any rational, reasonable Mizzou fan and said, if I give you at the end of 2023 a 10-3 record, Music City Bowl championship victory over the Iowa Hawkeyes, would you take it right now? Yes or no? Every single reasonable, rational Mizzou fan hits the yes button. Yes, I will take 10-3 in 2023. Instead, we did even better, 11-2. Go to the Cotton Bowl, beat Ohio State. Great. If you flip those 2 years and it made the progress is a little more linear, then I think everyone leaves this one maybe with feeling a little bit better about it. Regardless, we still have 2 years back-to-back double-digit victories, 2 bowl wins, sending out seniors who've done a great job for years, and some for many years, some for only 1 or 2 years. On a high note, 21 wins in 2 years, regardless of how you order those 2 seasons. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, would last year's team have made the playoff this year? Probably.
Yeah.
Almost definitely, actually, that they would have made it. I would have to think, but the playoff didn't exist last year, so that this isn't how it went. So yeah, this is a great year. Good to great year. I wouldn't say great year. It's a very good year. We'll go down one left. Very good year. 10-3. 2 years in a row. Only the third time Mizzou has ever won back-to-back double-digit. Have back-to-back double-digit wins on seasons. So this is a big deal, no matter where they end up in the rankings, which will probably be they're guaranteed they're going to be in the top 20. To close out the year. You're always gonna take that as a Mizzou fan.
Yeah. Daunting Biggs says MIZ ZOU, sir or ma'am. I don't know which one you are, but thank you. Snoop STP says NFL quarterback would have been the difference in making the playoffs. Other than the fact that any team is better with an NFL quarterback. Yes. I mean, let's go back to the losses, though. I mean, I guess you're saying, I want to kind of speak for Snoop here and project, but that's kind of part of this medium. I'm assuming he is saying that Brady Cook could not make the type of throws to get, throw receivers open or overcome, a defense that's bottling up the run. And yes, maybe, but look at how bad they lost to Texas A&M and how bad they lost to Alabama. Do you think an NFL court? Do you think a Drew Lock makes a difference against A&M or Alabama?
No, yeah, and that Drew Lock was the first name that came to my mind. He just had his best game of his NFL career yesterday. No, I don't think Drew Lock puts this team in the playoff. I think last year's secondary puts this team in the playoff, or at least last year's defense in general, because they did take a step back in terms of the talent on the field, which we always knew was going to be a case. And in many ways, this defense this year played better than I think a lot of people expected them to play across the board, for the whole season. So I don't think if you put Drew Lock on this team, they make the playoff. They're going to lose to Texas A&M either way. No way. Short of putting Patrick Mahomes on Mizzou might have led to them beating Texas A&M. Might have led. I don't know. They got shut out against Alabama.
Yeah.
And then South Carolina, sure. Okay, you put Patrick Mahomes on Mizzou against South Carolina, they're going to win. But Brady played a very good game, at least in the second half in that game too. So you cannot look at him and point at him and say he was the reason they lost that game. So I don't think that would have made a difference. I think it was the defense, secondary especially, because that's really where they got gashed against Texas A&M. That's really where they got gashed against South Carolina. The offense played well enough in South Carolina to win that game, and Alabama just write that one off because they didn't have a shot with Brady going out. So
I mean, it's an interesting thought, Snoop. And the best thing about these types of arguments is that you can never be wrong because you can never figure it out. It's like a social science. You can make your case, and everyone's got a good one. So I don't know. My thought would be no, just because the manner in which Mizzou lost was not really quarterback dependent. But again, you change one thing, and everything else changes after it. So it's really tough to tell. But and it's an interesting thought to think about, especially as Mizzou going into 2025 is probably going to have NFL level quarterbacks on its roster. And we'll have to see how he maximizes that. But does that make a difference? I don't know. And no, Brady's going pro in emos. That's what Brady's going to be doing. He is not going to be in the NFL. So, that is not his destiny, unless for some reason someone takes a flyer on him as a practice squad guy. But
he'll get on a roster in fall camp somewhere. He will be practicing during 2-a-days in fall camp, and I doubt he'll see a field during a pregame, but he will get invited to a roster just to see what they've got. I don't think he'll get drafted. That said, if you look at his career and line it next to a Brock Purdy, his stats look just as good as Brock Purdy's did, in terms of his wins, in terms of overall. Purdy might have had a few more passing yards. He was Mr. Irrelevant, so really the NFL didn't think he was that great either. And he's turned into at worst a serviceable NFL quarterback. So you can't say it's impossible that he plays in the NFL, but it's unlikely for sure.
Man, now I gotta look up. Purdy
for 4 years, so he will have 4. He started for 4 years, I believe, so he'll have 4 years worth of stats versus just Brady's 3. But in terms of their overall production, I think they're pretty comparable.
Yeah. Well, I have to find out because this is my curse. Okay. So we got Brady Cook played in 45 games. Brock Purdy played in 48. We got 1,467 attempts for Brock Purdy. I think Brady's going to end up at like 1,130, maybe 1,140, something like that. 67% completion percentage for his career. Brady's at 65. Brock had a 71% in his last year, which is really helping to carry him up there. Purdy finished with 12,170 yards. I think Cook's is going to be at 9,000, something like that. 81 passing touchdowns for Brock, 47.
Okay,
49.
So those are better than I had recalled, for sure. So
we'll say this: 33 interceptions Purdy threw, 15 for Brady Cook, and only 2 this past year, which is huge. Also, I guess they took about the same amount of sacks, but I mean, if you look at the adjusted net yard average, which looks at touchdown, sacks, yardage, lost sacks, interceptions, plus your completions, attempts, all that stuff, roll it up into one stat. Brady Cook and Brock Purdy have the exact same adjusted net yards average in their last year, 7.2. Now Purdy's was 7.7 for his college career, whereas Brady's is 7.2 for his career. But to your point, I mean, you can get overlooked guys who don't really impress at the college level, or you don't think impress at the college level, that NFL scouts go, well, you know what, I can work with that. Josh Allen is a prime example of this. Now he is a butterfly because he got paired with a really great OC and a really great quarterback coach and just happened to have the natural talent. I mean, I don't know, someone might take him. We'll see if he's interested. But if not, he's got a kingdom of emos to run, so he can be okay. I don't know if I forget how we got to this, but that's not important. I will say
Music City Bowl.
That's right. If you look at things that impressed, obviously Brady Cook had his best game of the year. I feel confident in saying that easily. But between the rushing, basically being the running game for Mizzou for the entire game, if not 3 of the 4 quarters, plus the fact that he threw it over 30 times with no interceptions and 2 touchdowns, easily his best game. And it's really cool that is going to be his. That's going to be his swan song, right? His last game is probably his best. He's going to be one of the most winningest quarterbacks in Missouri history. He's got over 9,000 yards passing. He's a dude that stuck around. I think his story is what really carries him in the lore of Mizzou football. Brad Smith being the trailblazer, Chase Daniel being the champion, Blaine Gabbert being the talent, James Franklin being the rugged, he's battling through injury, doing all this stuff kind of unheralded. You have these quarterbacks who have this lore, and he's not a Drew Lock or a Blaine Gabbert who is just naturally gifted. He's more along the James Franklin type, who is talented, gifted, often injured, but cared a lot and gave everything he had. And much like James, he had not the last season that you want, but a pretty good one. Took Mizzou to heights that you haven't seen, and he goes out victory with the MVP of the Music City Bowl. So I mean, you can't ask for much more than that, other than maybe some free pizzas and maybe some NIL deals from the Pizza Masters going to Mizzou. But tip of the cap to Brady Cook.
Yes, he was great. Couldn't ask for a better way to send him out. I also want to shout out the offensive line. Now, they did not have a great success run blocking, and I think you really, really saw what Armand Membu meant to this offensive line in the running game. In fact, I counted on one finger the number of times they tried a wide zone run all game, and that's the one play.
You saw what happened.
Eli Drinkwitz has run 15 times a game, every single game that he has been the Mizzou's coach. They ran it a single time, and they didn't run it till like the fourth quarter. And I think they were probably like, let's just try it once, whatever. And it was like a 3-yard loss.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what Membu really meant to this line. Didn't even try it. They tried running up the gut a little bit to very little effect. But the offensive line did do an outstanding job of getting Brady Cook days to throw the ball. He was really not pressured at all, minus maybe one or two plays on that first drive, which I still think he might have held on to the ball a little too long that first drive, and then he kind of started getting the ball out faster after that.
Yeah,
they really protected him well. Part of that might have been Iowa was not really interested in sending extra rushers. Thankfully, thank you, Iowa, for choosing not to do that. They preferred to sit back and just let Brady kind of pick them apart all game long. Not quite sure why that was the scheme that they came up with.
Oh my God, that's Iowa football, man. From Norm Parker to Phil Parker, it's always been we're going to play cover 2, 4-man front, just shell defense. That's all they ever do, and it works. Now, it didn't work. It
didn't work today. It did not work today. And two reasons it didn't work today. Number one, offensive line gave him plenty of time. They were not getting pressure with 4, and 2, Marquise Johnson is a dude. He's finally, I think, healthy for the first time all year. He tweaked his ankle or maybe even sprained it early in the year. We finally got to see this guy really be the featured receiver, especially in the second half once Theo got hurt. And Theo had a great first half for sure. But Marquise Johnson is more than just a deep ball merchant, and he showed that today. He hit the deep ball, but he was running every route on the field. In breaking routes, he had several of those that catching the ball over the middle, outbreakers, the deep ball, as we said. Just they had him all lining up all over the field, and he came through. I mean, he made some really big plays, and if Brady wasn't going to get the player of the game, it had to have been Marquise for sure. So really excited about his future prospects next year. Their wide receiving core is going to have a lot of turnover, and he's going to come in by far with the most returning production on the team. So it was great to see what he can do, and the fact that they will be able to use him in a much larger capacity next year.
Yeah. Eli called this an exhibition game a couple of days ago. And I was really interested in that because a lot of coaches aren't going to do that sort of thing. They want to make sure that the guys are locked in, that they're giving full effort. And I was surprised. It's not something that you usually hear on a live mic. And so I was curious, okay, if you're openly admitting that this is an exhibition, what does that look like? What does that look like from a game plan standpoint? What does that look like from a rotation standpoint? And on the offense, they didn't really have much choice but to play the backups. You didn't I think the broadcast really hammered it home very clearly, but let's just review one more time. They did not have Luther Burden, who was sitting out. They did not have Armand Membu, who was sitting out. They did not have Brett Norfleet, who had surgery. They did not have Theo Weiss after the first half. They did not have,
Connor
this was
Tollison.
Yeah, you didn't have Connor Tollison. You didn't have Kwan Lacey. You did not have a full complement offense that was already kind of limited as far as an explosive standpoint and was very efficient, yes, but really struggled against defenses that could bottle you up. And Mizzou went out and had one of the better offensive performances that we've seen, even without all of those guys. And it is mostly due to Marquise Johnson because he's the one constant that Brady Cook has had, the kind of the one guy that he's thrown to before. But also, let's shout out, Daniel Blood, who's been mostly just a fair catch machine on punts, who, yes, had a drop, but also had 2 great grabs. We saw James Madison get out there, and I know he didn't catch it, but he was targeted. We saw Logan Muckey, the guy who's just absolutely jacked, but like he had a great catch. It was just like he's the workout, gym rat champ, and now he's out here making catches.
Tavoris Jones had a 20-yard seam route, which I didn't know that he had in his bag. So that was great to see.
Tavoris Jones sighting, I would love for him to stick around with the team. I could understand if he didn't think there was a path there, but now that somebody's gone, like here's your opportunity. Like, yeah, you saw a lot. Mitch Walters, I know he had the roughing the unnecessary roughness, but I thought he did pretty well. He's not Armand Mimbu in run blocking, but he's pretty good at pass blocking. Drake Heismeyer did a great job. You really, the offense was forced to play a ton of backups, so that was not really the issue. My curiosity was with defense. And you did see Marquise Gracial. You did see Jeremiah Beasley roughing the passer, apparently. You did see Nick Rodriguez out there. Nick Naloch has already obviously been in the rotation before, so that was not a huge surprise. But you saw rotations in on defense that you had not seen previously. And whether that was because of portal loss of depth or just an experiment of, hey, let's see what else we have on defense, that Corey Petune just wants to get a little crazy. I was happy to see that. And okay, there, Camden Ross, I like that a lot of freshmen got to play in a close game. Yeah. Agree. We saw the backups, and that's not something you've usually seen with the Drinkwitz team. So it was very nice to see.
It was nice to see them. It was nice that they got to play.
Yes.
We saw that they got to play in the first half based on the defense's performance in the first half. Now, once the second half came around, the Make-A-Wish depth chart kind of went away, and they really tightened down the rotations in the second half, and it showed off because the defense played significantly better in the second half. And I think a large part was that they just kept their starters, or what starters they had in the game, primarily there at the end. And I'll give the defense a shout out because they really locked them down. I mean, 3 points. 3 points in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
I think Iowa had something like 10 yards of offense in the fourth quarter. So they really shut them down there in the second half. And we got to see, Nicholas Rodriguez had some good playing time. He was running around there. Jamarian Wayne got some snaps. Mm-hmm. Nice to see, get him out there and see what he can do. So, those guys, a lot of those guys were first half only participants, and it worked out. It worked out ultimately. Obviously, they won the game. It worked out well. So I'm glad it all came together. Caleb Flagg had some interesting reps out there as well. So he was telling Iowa about it every play, regardless of what was happening on the field. He was chatting about it.
He's the Chuck Hicks mantle of trash talking supreme has been passed on. May you not commit personal fouls like our dearly departed captain. But everything else I'm good with.
We certainly did commit enough personal fouls in his honor anyway. So I don't think
we had a few.
On that.
We had a few. Yeah. So it was an adventure. Iowa came out looking like LSU, 2019 LSU. Brendan Sullivan was mobile out of freaking nowhere. The receivers and the tight ends were making catches that they had not made all year. It was very odd. I mean, bowl games are weird. I had a friend of mine, he's like, hey, this is exactly how we all thought it was going to go. And I was just like, 3 weeks off, man, plus, loss in the portal, depth losses. I mean, let's compliment Iowa. They were playing without a full set either. They lost their center who broke his hand in practice, which sucks. So they had a backup center. Their backup running backs were playing. They did not have their full complement either, and they looked great. Down 2 starting quarterbacks, they looked great. So they did not play like they used to. And if it is because of, kind of an extended defensive depth chart, so be it. But they looked great in the first half, and they did not look great in the second half. And yeah, credit to Mizzou's defense for locking them up. I have never seen such a violent stop on fourth down than the one we saw to seal the game. And I think it's because we saw Corey Fleck literally jump over the line and punch him in the face so hard that he goes backwards, and Dalen Carnell cleans up afterwards. That's the most entertaining fourth down stop I think I've ever seen in my football watching career. What did you think?
It was a really weird play because I'm not convinced that Iowa knew what was going on. Like I think we saw their backup center have a couple snap issues earlier in the game. I'm still kind of convinced, and I haven't gone back and listened to the post-game interviews with Ferentz, but I kind of think that he snapped that ball too early before Sullivan was ready for it.
Oh, it was not clean. Regardless,
Sullivan took the ball and then didn't start to go running completely the wrong direction, and then before he knows it, he's getting flying squirreled by Corey Fleck. So it was very, very strange. I kind of didn't really even realize that it had happened until it was already over. It's like, oh wait, we stopped him. Mm-hmm. That was crazy. That was awesome. It was good. This defense, for some of its flaws this year, has been really, really good at those short yardage, third and shorts, fourth and shorts all year long. And it was great to see that they bowed up one more time to get the win there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is the last game for a lot of guys. Obviously, Brady Cook is the show stealer here. But Nate Noel, Marcus Carroll, both of those guys were 1-year rentals from the group of 5 from the Sun Belt. I thought they did great this year. Obviously they're not Corey Schrader as an individual, but they're certainly Corey Schrader in the aggregate. Appreciate everything that they did. We saw the end of Theo Weiss. It sucks that his last play was getting absolutely rocked. But he, like you said, he had a great game up until that point. Obviously, we're going to have Luther Burden is gone, but we did not see him today. Tyler Stevens, the Buffalo transfer tight end, we saw him play a little bit. Marcus Bryant, Cameron Johnson, Mitchell Walters, Drake Heismeyer, all of those guys are gone from the offensive line. Johnny Walker Jr. with his 2 sacks, he gone. Christian Williams, he gone. Possibly Tristan Newsom. We'll see about the JUCO rule, but certainly Corey Fleck and Will Norris from the linebacking core, they're gone. Marcus Clark from the corners, you didn't see him much this year, but he is gone. And then, of course, Joseph Charleston, Travis Johnson, Sidney Williams, they are all gone, as well as our punter, Luke Bauer. So that's a lot of guys who saw their Mizzou careers end here. It's a lot of production going out the window, and I know that you can replace it through the transfer portal, but it's never the same as if you brought them in, they've been in the program for a couple of years. So obviously salute to the seniors and all the guys who are going off to other things other than Mizzou football, but I don't want to be here just rating on the parade and in the light of a victory, but how do we feel about next year's team, knowing what we are losing after seeing this season?
If this was a normal, well, I say normal, if this was pre-2019, I would be quite concerned about the prospects for next year's team, and I would be looking at the schedule and I'd be saying, oh man, this will be about a rebuilding year, 7-5, 8-4. Let's shoot for that. 8-4 would be a really solid kind of rebuilding year. With the transfer portal the way it is now, I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be. It could be a team where we're breaking in a new quarterback, an entire defensive line, half of the offensive line, and it is a 7-5 year. It could easily be that, or they could bring in guys that are just as good, if not better, than the guys that have departed, and we're looking at another 9-3 season again. I mean, will this team next year go 11-1, 10-2? Probably not, but it could happen. We did not think that the 2023 Tiger team would go 11-2 either. So you never really know. So we're way too early in the game to start prognosticating what next year's team is going to look like. Because don't forget, there's a whole nother transfer window this spring that's coming up too. So we don't know who's leaving, who's coming at that point either. Well, it's not as big as the one that we just have kind of cycled through. But the Tigers did lose a couple guys. They did gain a couple guys in the spring window last year. So we won't know what the final roster is going to be till May.
Yeah.
At this
And even
point.
then, you don't always know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so weird. You grow up thinking of 4-year builds. If you're our age, that's what we were used to, especially for Missouri, where you had to accumulate talent and then develop it and build it. And every 4 years you would crest, and then what would that win total be? And maybe you glide another extra year, and then you got to rebuild again. And now it's just, yeah, man, you're a brand new team every single year. To Anthony's point, Anthony Mathis, build culture very fast. Yes, that's one of the things that Eli Drinkwitz has done. He has established a culture. Now, I think it was really rough in the first 2 years. I'm not going to tell tales out of school, but there's a very clear demarcation point in those first couple of years amongst the team, and that was not great. But he has got his guys in there. He has got of the people who are in there, they seem to be completely bought in. And if you are not, and if you are not producing, then you are not sticking around. So you have to hope that the guys who stick around and are, in the program for multiple years can bring the new guys in, bring the transfers in to keep that culture going. So yeah, definitely there. And then, yeah, now you're in a situation where you just, you plug your holes to the portal and it's completely different, and you don't know what it's going to be like, but that's kind of part of the excitement, right? Every year it's a team you don't know anything about. It could be anything. It could be 11 wins. It could be 11 losses. You just, ask Florida State. You just never know what it's going to be like. So yeah, it's tough to prognosticate, but it's a lot of talent that's leaving the team, and there's no way that you're going to be able to replace a whole cloth. But it's a good group of dudes, I don't want to throw shade at other programs, but you don't really hear a lot about them getting in trouble or anything like that, other than a couple speeding tickets or not showing up to court. When you do talk to them, they seem to have a lot of care about their teammates in this program, wanting to do well. And, the head coach gets a little snarky sometimes, but it's a good collection of dudes, and whatever it's going to happen, I'm very excited for it. But yeah, every team is a new one every single year. And along those lines, I guess we should talk about the departure, right? Because DJ Smith, linebacker coach, he's going back to his alma mater, going to App State. He's going to be a defensive coordinator. I will say I was kind of surprised when Eli Drinkwitz was looking outside the program last year and brought in Corey Batoon, because I'm like, hey, you got a guy who I think is pretty good. His linebackers are pretty good. But he never got the full DC title. He was always co-DC, and now he's going to be the sole coordinator, at least for now, at App State. So, yeah, congratulations, DJ. But Nathan Hurst, how you feel about this staff loss?
I mean, it is a loss. He's one of the few now original assistants that Eli brought over from App State the first time that he came over. And so that's, not only a great recruiter that you're losing, a good linebacker coach that you're losing, but somebody that has kind of built the program with Eli and has that institutional knowledge that you're going to have to fix, replace somehow. Now, I mean, this is definitely a elevated title for him. It makes sense for him to do that, not only just because he's now going to be the primary defensive play caller. He's going to be going back home to where he, went to school. That's really cool for him. I think that's the reason why he wasn't Eli's choice last year when he had to go out and hire a new defensive coordinator, is he just did not have that defensive calling experience, and that's something that Eli really valued. So now let DJ go, get some of that experience. If a few years down the road, Drinkwitz is looking for another defensive coordinator, and he's done well in that role, that there you go, building that pipeline up, bring him right on back. So this is a good problem to have. You want your assistant coaches to
totally
get better jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, App State definitely a step down in program, but the actual job title is a significant advancement for him. So you want your assistants to get better jobs, because that's going to make it that much more easy to bring in good candidates to replace them, saying that, hey, you come here, coach here for a few years, you could be the next defensive coordinator at one of the better G5 programs in the country. So that's an easy sell. Same goes with Blake Baker. Come here for a defensive coordinator. You could be at LSU as a defensive coordinator, making $2.5 million a year before you know it. So yeah, it's a bummer. Mizzou will not be better because of him leaving, but it's still ultimately down the road. It's a good thing. It's a positive sign for this program.
Yeah. I mean, especially for your position coaches. Eli Drinkwitz has said before, he's always told his guys, do not take a lateral move. Don't stay here until you can get a move up. And yeah, I mean, App State, I mean, they're not that far removed. They're still a good program. They had obviously a very down year. That's why they fired their coaching staff. But it's a well-resourced program. It's his alma mater, and he gets the title bump. So yeah, definitely I'm sure I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but from what he says publicly anyway, I'm sure Eli Drinkwitz was very excited for him to get that promotion there. So yeah, now you find the next guy. Like, hey, do you want to be a DC at a great G5 or get the opportunity to go to a blue blood? Like, well, yeah, come over here. We'll do that. You know how he likes his guys though. Eli Drinkwitz tends to like to, promote from guys that he has worked with before. So I've been trying to go through his stats and find anybody that has some overlap. And really the only guy I can think of who's got the experience and the position that he's won would be a Tommy Thigpen, who just got fired at UNC. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the guy. But he can coach linebackers. I won't let him touch the coordinator chair because his defenses suck almighty ass. And we can't have that here. But if we got the money for co-DC linebackers, so I don't know. Do you have anybody on your wish list for linebacker coach?
Not necessarily. I'm curious to know if Corey Batoon has some guys in his Rolodex that he's worked with in his long career.
Yep.
Batoon has coached linebackers in the past as well, so you could also potentially see he's currently coaching the safeties. Depending on who they want to bring in, they could bring in a safeties coach, and Batoon could shift to coach the linebackers too. I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but if they have a rock star safeties coach that they'd rather bring in, they do have that option at least to do that. So it'll be interesting.
Snoop says Michael Shear for linebacker coach. I don't know if Michael Shear wants this job. I'll be honest with you. He does not seem like a Mizzou guy.
At least not based on how his tenure ended here.
Not how his tenure ended.
He might have been one had things changed, ended differently, but
didn't seem to enjoy his time here.
Yeah, well, it's worth a call. I mean, he has had success where as a linebackers coach in his other stops, so it's worth a call. Make him say no.
But I mean, he's a DC now, so if you want him to co-DC, that's a guy who's got play calling experience. You don't get the alma mater discount with this guy, I don't think. So it's worth a call because he did very well at UNLV. So, but yeah, we'll see. Now, obviously, Missouri added somebody through the portal too. We don't want to miss this one. Johnny Williams was an offensive lineman who got added via portal a couple of days ago while Mizzou was practicing for this bowl game. He's a West Virginia transfer, and he has been playing left tackle specifically. And so Nathan Hurst, we're checking the boxes, right? Do you have years left? Check. Yes, you do. He will be a redshirt sophomore. Do you have production? Check. He has played in 12 games. He has 2 starts, and he's got 186 snaps to his name. Not a lot, but he's got some production. Johnny Williams, the 4th is his name. Macon, Georgia, Northeast High School was where he graduated from. You lose one, Johnny W. Jr., you gain another. That's the rule of Eli Drinkwitz. Nathan, how do we feel about this acquisition?
He's a nice add. To be honest, a little more excited about him than the other couple of portal linemen, just for a few different reasons. A, he's got 3 years of eligibility left as opposed to 1. He's played left tackle, which is going to be a big hole on this line. Now, is he a shoe-in for the job when he comes in? No, I don't think so. But he will compete for it. I mean, his name will be in the ring for that job. So I like it. I mean, this is not going to be like a Marcus Bryant where you come in and you're pretty positive he's got that job locked down. But he also has 3 years to earn it, which is great. That's what you'd love to see is guys coming in, guys who have competed at a Power 4 level and have more years to give beyond that. So I'm excited about it. Will he start next year? We'll see. That's another big question. He could very well be a solid starter on this offensive line for years to come.
I mean, is there any position that's guaranteed? I mean, even Connor Tollison and Caden Green, they always say that they're always going to compete. Nothing's guaranteed. So I don't know. I there's a good chance that you see a completely brand new starting five. I doubt it, but
I think the only way Tollison doesn't start is if he's still recovering from his knee injury.
And that's the thing. Yeah,
he's the only one that you would say 100% if he's healthy will be a starter. But the other four positions, Green's probably pretty well locked in there, but it's not. He didn't start he didn't play every snap that he could have healthy this year, so it's hard to say that he's going to be the case next year as well.
Yeah. My concern is just completely health based for Connor. I don't know. That was pretty nasty injury that he got, and that's tough to come back. Now he's obviously a young guy. He's got access to a lot of medical help to it. I just don't know if he's going to be ready in time. So I hope he is. Yeah, I mean, offensive line, I think everybody's going to be able to compete. I think Javen Richardson obviously gave Marcus Bryant a run for his money, and Marcus Bryant started every single game. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably say Javen Richardson gets a tackle spot, but I don't know which one, and I don't know even, if he even starts the entire season. So, but it's nice to have as many pieces as you can. Anytime you can add get a value added on the offensive line or defensive line, you take it, and this is one that they got. So yeah, I'm good with that. Plus he's got Power 4 experience, which is nice. So we are at the end. This is it. This is the last podcast of the 2024 season. Obviously, this is your first one, your first complete season. We are moments away from you wrapping up your first year at Rock Him with Before the Box Score. How are you feeling? Podcast, Nathan Hurst podcaster. How are you feeling?
It's fun. I've been having a blast for sure. I wasn't quite sure when I started what I'd have to say, but I've been able to come up with some kind of BS at least to bide the time. So it's been a lot of fun. It's great. Looking forward to 2025. There's a lot more question marks around the Mizzou team in 2025, which will, if nothing else, make it a lot more interesting to talk about. That's for sure.
Yeah. Anthony, what's up with Firestone? Austin Firestone retired from football, so we are not going to see him anymore, unfortunately.
That was before this past season. I think that was in the off season.
I like that guy a lot. I was sad to see him go. But yeah, Hurst completes his first year as a podcaster and a contributor at Rock M. I'm assuming you're going to do it again. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire, but are you coming back for next year? I mean, we're all hitting the transfer portal, right? Can I get your commitment coming back?
I'll come back as long as they won't kick me out. Until someone tells me stop showing up, I'll keep showing up.
Yeah, that's good. So we got, I think we'll take a couple of weeks off here from BTBS as far as podcasting goes, but we're not going to be gone for too long because this is, the portal window is open for 5 days after today for Missouri and Iowa. Obviously, there's still some scholarships to hand out, some roster spots that they can fill in, and they're going to be portaling because now the season's done. So you've got to figure things out. You got to bring people on campus and close it up and build your team back up. So we're not going to be gone for too long, but we are going to take a little bit of a break just to give the pipes a rest and enjoy our nights. But we'll see what that's going to be going forward. It was a good season, 10 wins. The losses were frustrating, but overall, it was a good season. You don't see 10-win seasons all that often. You don't get to see good stories like a Brady Cook or, a superstar like Luther Burden come around all that often. Now we kind of figure out what the portal is going to bring and count down for the NFL draft because, that's a 5-month process now. So we'll see what that process is going to look like and what Mizzou guys are going to get drafted. I mean, let's just throw this. How many Missouri Tigers were December 30th? How many Missouri Tigers do you think get drafted this upcoming year?
Well, let's see. They had 5 drafted last year, I believe, 5 or 6. I don't think it'll be that many. I think it'll be probably 4 would be my guess. You got Luther for sure, Mimbu. I think Theo will get drafted as well. On the defensive side, I don't know. Maybe Johnny Walker Jr. Maybe he might. Someone might take a flyer on him in the later rounds. We'll have plenty of time to look at it, but those would be my my top 4 most likely to get drafted, I think, at this point.
Flag is a little undersized. Otherwise, I'd think that he might have a shot, but he also wants to get into coaching. So I don't know. But yeah, we got many months to discuss that. we don't have to dive deep on that now. So yeah, be good, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed the end of the year. As we get into the new year, we will come back to you in a couple of weeks with another show. But of course, that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt Nate G. Edwards. He's at Burst to Hurst. And of course, you can follow the Rock Him flagship at Rock Him Nation and our podcast and outlet at Rock Him Radio. And if you're over at Blue Sky, a bunch of us are too. You can follow us there. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.